The 21st century began with a tragedy that shook the world, the September 11, 2001 attacks on the United States. On that clear Tuesday morning, terrorists hijacked 4 airplanes and carried out coordinated attacks on the World Trade Center in New York City and the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. The 4th plane crashed in a field in Pennsylvania after passengers bravely fought back against the hijackers. These attacks killed nearly 3,000 people from over 90 countries, making it the deadliest terrorist attack in human history. The 9/11 attacks had a profound impact on the United States and the world. They led to the launch of the War on Terror, a global campaign against terrorism. The United States, under President George W. Bush, vowed to hunt down the perpetrators of the attacks and bring them to justice. The attacks also triggered significant changes in U.S. foreign policy, with a renewed focus on counter-terrorism and military intervention in the Middle East. The 9/11 attacks were a stark reminder of the vulnerability of even the most powerful nations to terrorism. They also highlighted the importance of international cooperation in combating this global threat. The world watched in horror as the events of that day unfolded, and the images of the collapsing towers and the Pentagon in flames remain etched in the collective memory of a generation. The legacy of 9/11 continues to shape the world today, influencing everything from airport security measures to foreign policy decisions. The attacks served as a wake-up call to the threat of terrorism, leading to increased security measures and a global effort to combat extremist ideologies. In the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks, the United States launched the War on Terror, a global campaign aimed at defeating terrorist organizations and preventing future attacks. This campaign had far-reaching consequences, leading to military interventions in Afghanistan and Iraq, as well as increased security measures at home and abroad. The War on Terror reshaped U.S. foreign policy, placing a greater emphasis on counter-terrorism efforts and military engagement in the Middle East. One of the key targets of the War on Terror was Al-Qaeda, the terrorist group responsible for the 9/11 attacks. Led by Osama bin Laden, Al-Qaeda operated from safe havens in Afghanistan, where they received support from the ruling Taliban regime. In response to the 9/11 attacks, the United States launched a military intervention in Afghanistan in October 2001, with the aim of ousting the Taliban from power and dismantling Al-Qaeda's infrastructure. The War on Terror also led to the 2003 invasion of Iraq, which was based on the Bush administration's claims that Saddam Hussein's regime possessed weapons of mass destruction and had ties to Al-Qaeda. However, no such weapons were ever found, and the invasion and subsequent occupation of Iraq proved to be highly controversial, both domestically and internationally. The War on Terror also had significant domestic implications, with the passage of the Patriot Act, which expanded the government's surveillance powers in the name of national security. The War on Terror has been a defining feature of the 21st century, shaping global politics and impacting countless lives. While it has succeeded in weakening terrorist organizations like Al-Qaeda, it has also been criticized for its human cost, its impact on civil liberties, and its failure to address the root causes of terrorism. The War on Terror led to prolonged military interventions in Afghanistan and Iraq, entangling the United States in costly and complex conflicts. The wars in Afghanistan and Iraq became defining features of the early 21st century, shaping U.S. foreign policy, military strategy, and the global landscape. The war in Afghanistan, initially aimed at ousting the Taliban regime and dismantling Al-Qaeda, evolved into a protracted counterinsurgency campaign. Despite some early successes, the Taliban proved resilient, exploiting the country's challenging terrain and porous borders to regroup and launch attacks. The United States and its allies struggled to stabilize Afghanistan, facing challenges in building a functioning government, providing security, and promoting economic development. The war in Iraq, launched on the premise of eliminating Saddam Hussein's alleged weapons of mass destruction, quickly morphed into a complex and bloody conflict. The toppling of Saddam Hussein's regime created a power vacuum, fueling sectarian violence and instability. The United States found itself drawn into a protracted counterinsurgency campaign against various armed groups, including Sunni insurgents, Shiite militias, and Al-Qaeda in Iraq. The wars in Afghanistan and Iraq had profound consequences for the United States. They strained the U.S. military, drained the economy, and eroded public support for foreign interventions. The wars also fueled anti-American sentiment in parts of the Muslim world, complicating U.S. efforts to counter terrorism. The events and policies of the early 21st century have left the United States both divided and resilient. The war on terror, while aimed at protecting national security, has sparked debates over civil liberties and the balance of power. Yet, in the face of adversity, the nation has shown remarkable resilience and unity. The challenges of the past have shaped a generation, fostering a renewed sense of purpose and determination to build a better future. As the United States continues to navigate the complexities of the modern world, it remains a nation defined by its struggles and its triumphs, ever striving to rise above its divisions and forge a path forward.